Hey, welcome to Socialism for All. Today's date is September 28, 2021, and in this video we are going to do some commentary on a David Doel Rational National video about AOC last week breaking with the squad to vote present on the Funding the Iron Dome of Israel vote. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe, and consider supporting us on Patreon. There's a link to Patreon in the video description. So, AOC, where do we begin? It's only been 3 years, right? Because she got elected in 18, and then she was in office for 2019, 2020. Not even quite 3 full years yet. And man, she is just, I don't know what to say. You know, if you go back, it's a little like Jimmy Dore. If you go back and listen to like stuff from a few years ago, the tone is just night and day different. Night and day. In Jimmy Dore's case, he was a somewhat hopeful progressive who clearly knew right from wrong when it came to like supporting Republicans and various things related. And the level of directionless jadedness that he then started exhibiting, which took a turn pretty far into the right wing in subsequent years, just amazing. AOC used to talk a really good game. It was bring the ruckus. It's I don't care if I'm a one-term congresswoman, I'm going to go fuck shit up. Like that was her attitude. And you can hear it when she's talking. And then now her wings have been clipped and she needs to just quit. I mean, she's not going to. She's making $174,000 a year. I mean, you can make $174,000 a year plus all the interviews and photo shoots and whatever else. I mean, why would you give that up? It's just not in her interest to do that. It's in her interest to ride it out as long as she possibly can. Because you're making $174,000 a year. Now, obviously there's taxes, but you're grossing $500,000 every 3 years or $1 million every 6. And then that adds up, you know? So it's a lot of money. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if this is a result of her social imperialist politics, the kind of incomprehensible buzzword stew that she spits out every time she gives an interview, or if it's just sheer exhaustion. But she needs a holiday. She needs a long vacation because this is not working anymore. Let's go into the video now. I haven't watched this before. David Doel, the Rational National. We're doing some hanging with the Sockdem gang clips today. I did a Kyle Kalinske earlier. We did some Bernie Sanders response earlier. Let's do this now and round out the Sockdem trifecta from a Marxist perspective. Here we go.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez broke with the squad, voting present on a bill to fund Israel's Iron Dome to the tune of $1 billion. Now, she switched her vote from no to present after a long discussion with Nancy Pelosi. So I'm going to show you a clip of that in a minute here. But first, let me show you what went up to this, what happened up to this point. And also later on, I'll get to, I don't know, a little speculation about what may have happened here in terms of her vote. But first, this is what happened just a few days ago. Democrats strip funds for Israel from bill to raise debt ceiling. So progressive Democrats, including AOC, were successful in getting the Iron Dome funding out of this debt ceiling bill. But then, in typical Democratic fashion, they then pushed to pass a separate version of that. First, I just want to show you that the U.S. has been funding Israel to the tune here of $38 billion. This was back in 2016. So the $1 billion is in addition to all of this money already going to Israel. Of course, Israel, a human rights abuser, far right-wing government, and their apartheid state against Palestinians, but that's a whole other discussion. But here, they pulled it out into a separate bill. House approves $1 billion for the Iron Dome as Democrats feud over Israel. So, of course, you know, it's amazing. Democratic leadership won't fight to pass Medicare for all, won't fight to lower prescription drug prices. But when it comes to funding Israel,
Well, okay, yeah, jumping in, obviously, because those things aren't the same. Israel is an outpost of the U.S.'s interests in the Middle East, and the U.S. needs to keep funding it. It is an intelligence hub. It's basically there to keep an eye on and keep down the entire Middle East. It's a belligerent, genocidal apartheid state that is closely allied with the U.S., which is the military muscle for global imperialism. Anytime there's ever a left-wing uprising in a country, the U.S. is there to threaten that uprising and oftentimes to actually carry out the threats against that uprising. So Israel is really just part and parcel of that entire effort. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I really don't like it when social democrats make the argument of like, well, there's money for this, but then they say there's not money for healthcare. Yeah, they're not the same things. And why don't you just paint it in the correct terms, which is that it's not in capitalist interest necessarily to do the other things, but it is in their interest to do this. And there's reasons for it, material reasons. So anyway, the other point I guess I can make here is squad Democrats are in a losing situation. No matter what they do, even on their best day, the system is just not set up to, well, or conversely, the system is set up to suppress any real opposition to the wishes of the 1%. So, okay, they take the funding out of here. Congrats. Well, the entire rest of the Congress just put it somewhere else. So, you know, this is where you start getting into people making tons of excuses for the squad. And that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to say is this whole effort is destined to go basically nowhere. And I know that a lot of people say, well, we just need more of them in the Congress. This isn't... Anyway, I'm really tired of having this conversation, to be honest. How many years is it going to take you to fucking realize? People are so stubborn. You just don't want to see that it's not going to work. You don't want to see that this strategy of electing better Democrats gets you absolutely nowhere at all. Anyway, let's go on. Maybe I've done too many of these. These piss me off so much because for me now, it's been like 20 years of watching this, and I'm sure that there's people who have been doing this for longer, but you just watch the Democrats rubber stamp the vilest shit that the Republicans can come up with because they both work for empire. They're both there to maintain the U.S. empire and to uphold global capitalism. That is their purpose. That's what the capitalists elect them to the government to do, nothing else. I don't know. You think you're going to vote your way out of the situation. You're wrong. I mean, just look at how things are going. Continuing.
When it comes to supporting a human rights abuser, they will do whatever they can, pull out all the stops, make it a separate bill just to be able to pass it. Disgusting. To show you, so the vote was 420 to 9. So 9 voted against this, including one Republican, surprisingly. But one of the people that voted against it was Rashida Tlaib, saying here, quote, "I will not support an effort to enable war crimes and human rights abuses and violence. We cannot be talking only about Israelis' need for safety at a time when Palestinians are living under a violent apartheid system and are dying from what Human Rights Watch has said are war crimes." Also, Cori Bush voted against it, tweeting out here, "Palestinians deserve freedom from militarized violence too. We shouldn't be sending an additional $1 billion to an apartheid state's military, especially not when we are failing to adequately invest in the healthcare, housing, education, and other social services our communities need." Now, in terms of others that voted against it, so Alex Kane here tweets out the vast majority of the Progressive Caucus voted to give Israel an extra $1 billion. So the Progressive Caucus is about 100 members. So the vast majority of that caucus voted for this, but the vast majority of them also are not really progressive on all these issues.
Yeah, so this is a joke. It's a bad strategy. It's token resistance to keep people distracted and invested in the system. The squad is best at tweeting. They give people the impression that something is happening, and then people, cheer them on. Merely calling it disgusting doesn't do anything to change the situation. Or, well, don't blame me. I voted for AOC or whatever. Like, that's not enough. We really need to move beyond seeking solutions within capitalist politics. You don't think they know about climate crisis and they haven't known about it for decades? No, but of course they do. They're committed. It's not that they don't, the no is no. Of course, it's not that they don't know about it. They know damn well, but their system doesn't allow them to change out of what they're doing. And they're hell bent on this course. And you electing even 50 people to the Congress, it's not going to make any difference. So let's see when he gets to the AOC part where she's like makes the vote but is crying. You know, somebody tweeted out criticizing it like, you know, voting to burn your own house down and then crying over the rubble. Like, what did Pelosi say to her? And anyway, it's just not working. Please stop supporting the squad. This whole strategy is a gigantic waste of time and resources. Join things local in your community. Please give up this idea that the U.S. government can be reformed. It really cannot.
But he says here the squad was also not united. Bowman voted yes, which also deserves criticism here. AOC voted present. The others, Tlaib, Omar, Presley, voted no. Now, to be clear, yes, the vote was 420-9. So this was largely a symbolic vote. Even if Jamal Bowman voted no, even if AOC voted no, it wouldn't have done anything. But that should that should make it even more obvious that they should have voted against it. So, like, what is the pressure at play here? Obviously, New York, there are other interests at play, which is, I think, likely why Bowman voted for it. But AOC, switching her vote from no to present, having fought against putting the funds into the debt ceiling bill, and then going on to vote present, I mean, there's something else going on here. So let me first show you this is after the vote that AOC made. She appears to be in tears after this vote.
I inform the House that Ms. Lawson will vote nay on House Resolution 483 amendments. He votes nay.
All right, so you see AOC there talking to Barbara Lee. I would love to know what's going on in these conversations, because this happened after AOC's present vote. But interestingly enough, this is what happened before she switched her vote from no to present. Nicole Alexander Fisher here tweeting out, interesting interaction on the House floor on the vote for Iron Dome funding. AOC voted no, but there was a minutes-long interaction between her and Speaker Pelosi, where Ocasio-Cortez seems visibly distraught, which preceded her vote switch to present. So I'm going to play a bit of this as I'm talking here. I'll zoom into the part where you see Nancy Pelosi talking to AOC while I read the next tweet here from Nicole Alexander Fisher saying interaction continued. It ends with AOC switching her no vote to present. So who knows what went on in that conversation? But clearly, I think that's what had an impact on this vote. I mean, it directly came before the change to present. Something happened in that conversation that made her switch her vote. Did Nancy Pelosi threaten to no longer support the $3.5 trillion budget bill? Did Nancy Pelosi, I don't know, promise her something in exchange for this vote? This whole conversation is just, it's odd because the vote meant nothing. It was purely symbolic. So I'm not sure why Nancy Pelosi would even care what AOC's vote would be. But clearly something went on here. There was some sort of deal or pressure being put on AOC to vote a certain way. And unfortunately, we have no answer. And AOC's people, in response to other media outlets asking a question about this, have given no comment. So whatever happened was private. It is some behind closed doors kind of a deal here, and we have no idea exactly what went on. But I want to show you that because this happened a day before her present vote. So here AOC is spitting fire on the amount of money that the U.S. puts into defense.
It is not the readiness that cutting our defense budget threatens. It is the profit margins of defense contractors. In fact, almost every major defense contractor here in the United States has had to pay fines or settlements for fraud or misconduct, all while getting about $1 trillion in public funding in defense contracts. I have seen this personally in my work on the Oversight Committee, where we have encountered contractor after contractor gouging the public and draining our resources.
All right, so that's just a piece of the discussion. You can watch the whole video below. I'll link it below if you want to see it. But here she is speaking out against the continued increase in the defense budget.
So I haven't been commenting much, and I think I'm just going to end the video here because I'm having a hard time finding a single shit to give about any of this. It's the U.S. government. What do you think it's going to do? Whether you have 3 of AOC in there or 30 of them in there, they're going to find a way to be the empire regardless, and they will fight tooth and nail against that, including, like, I'll bet the United States would nuke, like, several of its own states in the interest of maintaining capitalism. That would be my guess. So I don't know what to say. I'm kind of at a loss for words. This is sort of just like celebrity worship. I don't even know where Doel's criticism is going. It's like just from a sort of juicy gossip type of perspective, not hearing like a ton of substance anyway. So there's a reason I don't critique this guy's videos that much. Anyway, this is just kind of fluff, but please stop paying attention to the entire AOC distraction. It is literally that. And get involved in something in your community. Join an organization. Please, we need to build a significant socialist movement of the actual Marxist communist persuasion. And if we get on that now, we can have it in 10 years. But this continuing to just toss time, money, resources down the absolute black hole of the Democratic Party, it's just not going to serve us in any useful way. I know I sound like a broken record on that, but people still haven't gotten this yet, apparently. It is the fundamental task of the U.S. left to break with the Democratic Party and with all capitalist parties. And with that, I will leave you. Thanks for listening. Thanks to the current patrons whose names are on the screen. If you'd like to get your name on the screen, head to patreon.com/socialism for all. Otherwise, just liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting all help to boost the videos. Thanks for doing that. And thanks for whatever you're doing in your broader community to promote the cause of socialism. We'll catch you in the next video.